Once upon a time, the Premier League was considered the pinnacle of football. Fast-paced games, unpredictable outcomes, and iconic moments that had fans screaming at their TVs. This was the league that turned David Beckham into a global superstar, where Arsenal's Invincibles made history, and where underdogs like Leicester City shocked the world. But now, well, the Premier League feels more like a poorly written soap opera with billionaires fighting over who can break financial rules the best. And let's be honest, watching VAR make decisions is more suspenseful than the matches themselves. So what happened? How did the Premier League go from being the pinnacle of football to whatever this is? Let's find out. Flashback to 1992. The English First Division clubs decided they wanted more control over broadcasting rights and, of course, more money. So they broke away from the Football League and formed the Premier League. It was revolutionary. Sky Sports swooped in, cameras started zooming in on sweaty foreheads, and suddenly, football was less about mud and more about money, but in a good way. Initially, this solved the problem of underfunded clubs and brought in global audiences. Fans loved it, clubs got richer, and everyone was happy. For a while, the Premier League wasn't just a football competition anymore, it became entertainment. The marketing was slick, the player profiles became larger than life, and football started evolving from being a community event into a global spectacle. And hey, who could complain? Football was getting the Hollywood treatment and everyone wanted a piece of it. The Premier League skyrocketed in popularity thanks to iconic players like Thierry Henry, Alan Shearer, and Cristiano Ronaldo lighting up the stage. The drama was on the pitch, not in courtrooms. We had Manchester United dominating, Arsenal going unbeaten, and Chelsea rising to power with the arrival of Roman Abramovich's Russian billions. The league was unpredictable, and that's why we loved it. Until it wasn't. Let's not forget the big moments. Aguero's last-minute title winner in 2012, Leicester City's fairy tale title win in 2016, and Liverpool breaking their 30-year title drought. Those moments defined the Premier League, but while we were busy celebrating, cracks were forming behind the scenes. Now, when did things start getting messy? Some say it was the Ashley Cole tapping up scandal in 2005, where Chelsea secretly courted Cole without Arsenal's permission. A little shady, but just the tip of the iceberg. Fast forward to 2011, and you have John Terry accused of racially abusing Anton Ferdinand. Oh, and let's not forget the 8-match ban for Luis Suarez after racially abusing Patrice Evra the same year. If you think that's bad, Suarez also tried to have Italian for lunch by biting Giorgio Chiellini in 2014. You can't make this stuff up, but let's rewind a bit. The acquisition of Chelsea by Roman Abramovich in 2003 created a significant opportunity for billionaire owners. Manchester City followed suit with Sheikh Mansour in 2008. Suddenly, football clubs weren't clubs, they were investment vehicles. Success wasn't about building a great team over years, it was about who had the deepest pockets. But scandals aren't the only issue. The influx of billionaire owners turned clubs into vanity projects. Manchester City and Chelsea became financial powerhouses, while traditional clubs struggled to keep up. And with money came, well, more money problems. Let's deep dive into a few scandals. Remember when VAR was introduced as the savior of refereeing errors? It was supposed to bring clarity, fairness, and justice to the game. Instead, it has become the main character of every Premier League match, often overshadowing the actual football. In 2023, during a heated clash between Spurs and Liverpool, Luis Diaz scored a perfectly legitimate goal. Fans erupted in celebration, only for VAR to step in and disallow it. Why? Because they forgot to check. Yes, you heard that right. The multi-million-pound system designed to prevent human error simply forgot to do its job. And that wasn't a one-off. We've seen goals chalked off for a player's toenail being offside, and penalties awarded after players tripped over their own feet. VAR has turned football into a clinical, overanalyzed spectacle where fans are afraid to celebrate until the technology gives them the green light. The very soul of spontaneous football joy is being smothered under endless reviews and lines drawn at microscopic levels. It's as if VAR was designed by the same people who make printer error messages, needlessly complicated and guaranteed to ruin your day. Manchester City charged with over 100 breaches of financial rules in 2023. Let that sink in. Over 100 breaches. This isn't a case of misplacing a receipt or accidentally overspending on snacks. We're talking about systematic financial manipulation over multiple years. City allegedly disguised sponsorship deals, inflated revenue figures, and flat-out ignored financial fair play (FFP) regulations designed to keep clubs from spending beyond their means. It's like getting 100 speeding tickets and still having a license, except instead of a fine, you get more trophies. The Premier League was supposed to investigate and punish such behavior, but here we are, watching City lift trophies while the investigations drag on endlessly. Other clubs cry foul, but the system seems rigged in favor of the wealthiest teams. If rules can be bent this far, does FFP even matter anymore? Or is it just window dressing while the rich get richer and the rest fight over scraps? The Premier League has had its fair share of touchline tantrums and managerial implosions that make daytime soap operas look tame. Who could forget Jose Mourinho sneaking into the Stamford Bridge dressing room in a laundry basket after being banned from the touchline? Or Arsene Wenger dramatically kicking a water bottle in frustration and getting sent off? Then there's Antonio Conte and Diego Costa reportedly engaging in heated arguments that nearly turned physical. Managers are supposed to be the cool, calculated strategists on the sidelines, but in the Premier League, they often look like they're one bad call away from reenacting a WWE match. It's no wonder this league keeps us glued to the screen. Half the drama happens off the pitch. From John Terry's racial abuse case to Andy Gray's sexist remarks, the Premier League has struggled to tackle discrimination effectively. Despite high-profile campaigns like Kick It Out and No Room for Racism, the league continues to face persistent issues. Instances of racial abuse directed at players on social media have skyrocketed, with stars like Marcus Rashford, Raheem Sterling, and Bukayo Saka becoming frequent targets. Stadium incidents, although less common, still occur, reminding us that discrimination hasn't been eradicated on the terraces either. On the sexism front, in 2011, Andy Gray and Richard Keys were dismissed for making sexist comments about female assistant referee Sian Massey Ellis, highlighting deep-rooted biases within football media. Yet, even today, female pundits and referees face online harassment and a lack of opportunities. The appointment of female referees in top leagues is still seen as groundbreaking rather than normal. The Premier League often responds with PR-driven gestures, rainbow armbands, hashtags, and banners. But meaningful change requires more than symbolic acts. There needs to be stricter punishment for offenders, accountability for clubs that fail to address discrimination, and genuine investment in diversity initiatives. Until then, these campaigns feel more like box-ticking exercises than real solutions. At this point, the Premier League feels like an episode of Succession, but with more overpriced haircuts. Remember Newcastle teammates Lee Bowyer and Kieran Dyer punching each other mid-game in 2005? Imagine paying for a ticket and watching your own team self-destruct. That's value for money. And let's not even start on Sam Allardyce's undercover sting in 2016, advising how to bend transfer rules. Classic Big Sam. On January 25, 1995, Manchester United's enigmatic forward Eric Cantona delivered one of the most infamous moments in football history. After being sent off during a match against Crystal Palace, Cantona launched a kung fu-style kick into the chest of a Palace supporter, Matthew Simmons, who had been taunting him from the stands. The entire footballing world was left in shock. This wasn't just a red card, it was a full-blown assault captured live on television. The fallout was massive. Cantona received a 9-month suspension from football, was fined £20,000, and sentenced to 120 hours of community service. The incident raised serious questions about player conduct and fan provocation. Cantona, ever the philosopher, famously remarked in a press conference, "When the seagulls follow the trawler, it is because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea." A cryptic statement, but it perfectly embodied his complex persona. Manchester United stood by their star, and when Cantona returned to football, he led United to a League and FA Cup double. Yet, the Premier League's image had been tainted. Critics argued that the league wasn't doing enough to protect players or maintain professionalism, while fans began to question how far passion could excuse violence. It was a moment that forced the league to reconsider player-fan interactions and disciplinary standards, a black mark on what was supposed to be the world's most prestigious league. George Graham's downfall in 1995 was a seismic event in English football. The Arsenal manager, who had led the club to multiple trophies including 2 league titles, was exposed for accepting illegal payments known as bungs from Norwegian agent Rune Hauge. These under-the-table payments were connected to the transfers of players John Jensen and Paul Leiderson. Graham reportedly accepted £425,000, a staggering sum that sent shockwaves through the footballing world. The scandal was more than just a personal failure for Graham. It peeled back the curtain on the shadowy world of football transfers. The Premier League, still in its infancy, prided itself on professionalism and transparency. Yet, here was one of its most successful managers embroiled in blatant corruption. Arsenal acted swiftly, sacking Graham to preserve the club's reputation, but the damage was done. Fans and media alike began to question how many other managers and clubs were engaging in similar practices. This scandal prompted the FA to tighten regulations around transfer dealings and crack down on illegal payments. However, it also exposed how deeply money had infiltrated football, setting a precedent for future financial controversies in the Premier League. Graham's dismissal marked the end of an era at Arsenal and left a lasting stain on the integrity of football management. In 2005, Chelsea Football Club found themselves embroiled in one of the most controversial transfer scandals in Premier League history. The club, under the management of Jose Mourinho, was caught illegally approaching Arsenal's star left-back Ashley Cole without permission from his club. This covert meeting involved Mourinho, Chelsea's chief executive Peter Kenyon, and Cole himself at a London hotel, a blatant violation of the Premier League's strict rules prohibiting the direct poaching of players under contract. The fallout was explosive. Chelsea was fined £300,000, Mourinho personally received a £200,000 fine, and Ashley Cole was fined £100,000. For a club bankrolled by billionaire owner Roman Abramovich, these penalties were nothing more than pocket change. Arsenal was left furious, not just because of the underhanded tactics, but because it destabilized their squad. Cole's relationship with Arsenal fans and management fractured beyond repair, leading to his eventual transfer to Chelsea. This incident exposed how ruthless clubs had become in the pursuit of talent and success. It also highlighted how financial muscle allowed wealthy clubs to bend, if not outright break, the rules with little consequence. The tapping up scandal was a turning point, showing that the Premier League was becoming a playground for the rich, where regulations could be sidestepped with minimal punishment. Arsenal never fully recovered from losing Cole, and Chelsea's aggressive recruitment tactics set the tone for future transfer dealings in the league. In September 2010, Wayne Rooney, Manchester United's star striker and England's golden boy, found himself at the center of a media storm. Reports surfaced that Rooney had engaged in extramarital affairs with escorts while his wife, Colleen, was pregnant with their first child. The tabloids had a field day, splashing the story across front pages and dominating headlines for weeks. The scandal severely damaged Rooney's public image. Once admired for his working-class rise to football stardom, Rooney was now viewed as reckless and irresponsible. Fans were divided. Some forgave him due to his on-field heroics, while others were outraged by his behavior, questioning his loyalty, not just to his family but to the club and supporters who idolized him. The controversy spilled onto the pitch. Rooney's form dipped, and speculation about his future at Manchester United intensified. He even threatened to leave the club, citing a lack of ambition, which many saw as a veiled attempt to negotiate a more lucrative contract amidst the scandal. Sir Alex Ferguson, known for his strict discipline, managed to keep Rooney at the club, but the relationship between the player and the fans never fully recovered. This incident wasn't just a personal failing. It symbolized a broader issue in football where superstar players seemed untouchable, their off-field indiscretions overshadowed by their sporting success. The Premier League, keen on projecting a family-friendly image, struggled to manage the fallout, highlighting the league's vulnerability to scandals involving its biggest stars. In March 2011, Manchester City's veteran defender Kolo Touré was handed a 6-month suspension after testing positive for a banned substance. Touré claimed the positive test result was due to accidentally consuming his wife's diet pills, which contained a prohibited substance. While this explanation raised eyebrows, it highlighted the often overlooked issue of athlete responsibility in monitoring what they ingest, regardless of intent. Manchester City, a club on the rise and pushing for Premier League dominance, suddenly had to deal with the negative press surrounding one of their senior players. For Touré, the incident tarnished his reputation, casting a shadow over a career that had been largely professional up to that point. It also sparked broader discussions about doping regulations in football, a sport often perceived as being less vulnerable to drug scandals compared to athletics or cycling. This scandal served as a stark reminder that even in football, strict vigilance over substances is necessary. The Premier League faced criticism for not having stricter educational programs for players regarding banned substances, and Touré's ban sent a clear message that ignorance of the rules would not be tolerated. Although Touré returned to football after serving his suspension, the incident remains a blemish on both his career and Manchester City's growing reputation at the time. In October 2011, Chelsea captain John Terry was embroiled in one of the Premier League's most high-profile racism scandals. During a fiercely contested match against Queen's Park Rangers, Terry was accused of racially abusing QPR defender Anton Ferdinand. The incident was captured on video, and though the audio was unclear, lip readers and video analysts suggested Terry had used a racial slur. The footage quickly went viral, sparking outrage and demands for accountability. The case escalated beyond football. Terry was charged with racially aggravated public order offense, leading to a criminal trial in July 2012. Though he was acquitted in court due to a lack of definitive evidence, the Football Association, or FA, conducted its own investigation. The FA found Terry guilty of misconduct, banning him for 4 matches and fining him £220,000, one of the largest fines in English football at the time. The scandal severely damaged Terry's reputation. He was stripped of the England captaincy for a second time, leading to Fabio Capello's resignation as England manager in protest. The incident also intensified discussions about racism in football, exposing the Premier League's struggles to effectively combat discrimination. Many criticized the FA for their delayed and arguably lenient response, while others pointed out the inconsistency in how racist incidents were handled. This case highlighted the toxic undercurrents of racism still present in football and raised questions about whether the Premier League and its governing bodies were equipped to handle such serious issues. For Terry, despite his illustrious career, this incident remains a dark chapter that continues to shadow his legacy. In one of the Premier League's most controversial moments, Liverpool striker Luis Suarez was found guilty of racially abusing Manchester United's Patrice Evra during a heated clash at Anfield in October 2011. Suarez allegedly used racially charged language towards Evra multiple times during the game, a claim Evra reported to the referee and later to the FA. The incident quickly escalated, dominating headlines and igniting fierce debate over racism in football. After a thorough investigation, the FA handed Suarez an 8-match ban and a £40,000 fine, a punishment many critics deemed insufficient given the severity of the offense. Liverpool's response was equally controversial. The club publicly defended Suarez and, in a show of misguided solidarity, the entire Liverpool squad wore T-shirts supporting Suarez during a warm-up ahead of a match. This move was met with widespread condemnation, as it appeared to trivialize the issue of racism in football. The scandal severely damaged Liverpool's reputation, with many accusing the club of prioritizing player loyalty over moral responsibility. Suarez's relationship with Manchester United players and fans soured, leading to further tensions in future fixtures. The incident also exposed the Premier League's inadequate measures for handling racism, prompting calls for harsher sanctions and more proactive anti-racism campaigns. For Suarez, this was a defining moment that overshadowed his prolific goal-scoring abilities. While he continued to perform on the pitch, his reputation was irreparably tarnished in the eyes of many. The Premier League, meanwhile, was forced to confront the uncomfortable reality that racism was still deeply embedded in the sport and that its response mechanisms were woefully inadequate. On April 21, 2013, during a heated Premier League clash between Liverpool and Chelsea at Anfield, Luis Suarez shocked the football world with one of the most bizarre and disgraceful acts ever witnessed on a football pitch. He bit Chelsea defender Branislav Ivanovic on the arm. Yes, in the middle of a Premier League match, Suarez, frustrated and unable to contain his aggression, sank his teeth into an opponent. The incident was caught on live television and quickly spread across social media, sparking global outrage. Ivanovic, stunned but remarkably composed, continued the game, while Suarez remained on the pitch without immediate punishment. The referee missed the incident, but the footballing authorities did not. Following a review, the FA handed Suarez a 10-match ban, one of the longest ever issued for violent conduct in Premier League history. Liverpool initially defended their star striker, but the pressure from media, fans, and anti-violence campaigners forced the club to accept the severity of the punishment. This wasn't Suarez's first bite either. He had previously bitten PSV Eindhoven player Otman Bakal during his time at Ajax in 2010, earning a 7-match ban. The pattern of behavior painted Suarez as a player unable to control his impulses, overshadowing his undeniable brilliance on the pitch. The incident deeply embarrassed Liverpool, a club proud of its legacy and reputation. Critics accused the Premier League of not imposing harsher penalties on repeat offenders. This bizarre act also led to discussions about whether clubs were doing enough to manage the behavior of volatile players. Suarez eventually left Liverpool for FC Barcelona in 2014, where he would go on to, yes, you guessed it, bite again at the 2014 World Cup, this time targeting Italy's Giorgia Chiellini. The Suarez biting scandal exposed how individual misconduct could tarnish a club's image and raised uncomfortable questions about accountability in football. It remains one of the most surreal and infamous moments in Premier League history.
Finally, Uruguay striker Luis Suarez has apologized for biting Italian defender Giorgio Chiellini in their final group stage match at the World Cup.
On March 1, 2014, during a Premier League match between Newcastle United and Hull City, Newcastle manager Alan Pardew shocked the footballing world by headbutting Hull City's midfielder David Mailer. The incident occurred when Mailer nudged Pardew while retrieving the ball for a throw-in near the touchline. The act, broadcast live, left fans and pundits in disbelief. This was a Premier League manager, not a player, engaging in violent conduct. The reaction was swift and fierce. Pardew was fined $100,000 by Newcastle United and issued a formal warning. However, the Football Association took further action, handing Pardew a 7-match ban, with 3 games as a stadium ban and 4 as a touchline ban, and an additional $60,000 fine. Many felt the punishment was lenient, given the severity of the act and the example managers are expected to set. This incident tarnished Pardew's reputation, overshadowing his managerial accomplishments. It also raised concerns about discipline and conduct among Premier League managers.
Well, you know, it was just a heat of the moment thing, and obviously I massively regret it, and I'm going to have to sit down from now on, because that's about 2 or 3 incidents I've been involved with on the line, so that'll be me sitting down from now on as a manager.
Fans and critics questioned how someone in a leadership role could so easily resort to violence. The incident became a lasting symbol of the league's struggle with professionalism among its managerial ranks. For Newcastle, A club already under scrutiny for inconsistent performances, this was a public relations disaster. The Premier League, eager to uphold its global reputation, faced criticism for not imposing harsher sanctions. Pardew's headbutt remains one of the most bizarre and disgraceful managerial outbursts in Premier League history, highlighting that the drama off the pitch can sometimes eclipse the game itself. In May 2015, just after narrowly escaping relegation from the Premier League, Leicester City was rocked by a deeply embarrassing and damaging scandal. During a post-season goodwill tour in Thailand, ironically aimed at boosting the club's global image, 3 young Leicester players, James Pearson, the son of then-manager Nigel Pearson, Tom Hopper, and Adam Smith, were filmed engaging in a lewd sex act with local women. Worse yet, the video captured the players making racist comments towards the women involved, turning a private scandal into a public relations catastrophe. The leaked video caused outrage both in England and abroad. Leicester City swiftly acted by terminating the contracts of all 3 players, attempting to draw a firm line against racist and inappropriate behavior. However, the damage was done. The scandal not only embarrassed the club, but also cast a shadow over its efforts to expand its global brand, particularly in Thailand, where the club's billionaire owners, the Srivadinapprabha family, hail from. The incident highlighted the lack of professionalism and accountability among young players and raised questions about how clubs educate their athletes about cultural sensitivity and public conduct. It also exposed a broader issue in football, the struggle to manage off-the-pitch behavior in an age where social media and technology can turn private misdeeds into public disasters overnight. Though Leicester City would go on to achieve an extraordinary Premier League title, win the following season in 2016, one of football's greatest underdog stories, the sex tape scandal remained a stark reminder of the dangers of complacency in player discipline. The club had to work hard to rebuild its image, not just as a football team, but as a brand that represented integrity and respect in the global football community. In September 2016, Sam Allardyce was forced to resign as England manager after just 67 days in charge, the shortest reign in the national team's history. Allardyce, who had long been celebrated for his managerial resilience in the Premier League, was caught in a sting operation by undercover journalists from The Telegraph. He was secretly filmed offering advice on how to circumvent the Football Association's strict third-party ownership rules, a practice banned to prevent outside influence over player transfers. In the damning footage, Allardyce appeared boastful, discussing how to get around regulations and suggesting it was possible to exploit loopholes for financial gain. He also mocked former England manager Roy Hodgson and criticized key figures within the FA. The revelation stunned the footballing world, tarnishing both his career and the image of English football leadership. The fallout was immediate. The FA swiftly acted, forcing Allardyce to resign in what they labeled a mutual agreement. The scandal raised serious concerns about corruption at the highest levels of football management and whether influential figures were exploiting their positions for personal profit. It also damaged the credibility of the England national team, which was already struggling after a humiliating exit from Euro 2016. For Allardyce, it was a humiliating end to a job he had dreamed of holding his entire career. Despite later returning to club management, his reputation was irrevocably damaged. The incident served as a stark reminder of how greed and arrogance can derail even the most experienced figures in football. It also forced the FA to reevaluate its vetting process and prompted calls for greater transparency and accountability within football governance. In February 2023, Manchester City was hit with over 100 charges related to breaches of the Premier League's financial fair play (FFP) regulations. The accusations spanned a 9-year period from 2009 to 2018, covering allegations of inflating sponsorship revenues, misrepresenting financial records, and failing to provide accurate financial information. These breaches painted a picture of systematic financial manipulation designed to bypass FFP rules and maintain their dominance in English football. Despite the gravity of the charges, the Premier League's response has been sluggish, leading to widespread criticism. Fans and analysts alike questioned why a club with such extensive violations continued to operate without facing serious consequences. charges, while other clubs, like Everton, faced immediate points deductions for lesser offenses. Manchester City continued to dominate on the pitch, adding more silverware to their collection. The club, backed by the immense wealth of Abu Dhabi's Sheikh Mansour, was accused of using inflated sponsorship deals with companies closely linked to the club's ownership to artificially balance the books. This financial maneuvering allowed them to spend lavishly on player transfers and wages, building a squad that overwhelmed the competition. Critics argued this undermined the integrity of the Premier League, creating an uneven playing field where financial clout rather than sporting merit determined success. Manchester City has consistently denied any wrongdoing and launched an aggressive legal defense, hiring top-tier legal teams to fight the charges. This legal entanglement has dragged the process into a seemingly endless dispute, highlighting how wealth and power can stall accountability in football governance. The Premier League's inability to enforce its own financial rules against one of its biggest clubs has damaged its credibility. Many fans feel disillusioned, believing that financial misconduct goes unpunished if a club is powerful enough. Until decisive action is taken, the perception will remain that financial fair play is more of a suggestion than a rule. And Manchester City's success will continue to be viewed through the lens of controversy. In November 2023, Everton became the first Premier League club to be handed a points deduction for breaching the league's profit and sustainability rules, PSR. Initially docked 10 points, the punishment was later reduced to 6 following an appeal, but it still represented a significant blow to the club. The charges stemmed from financial mismanagement, with Everton reportedly exceeding the allowed losses by over £19 million during a 3-year assessment period. The Premier League's decision was seen as a historic moment, a stern warning to clubs about the consequences of reckless spending. The impact on Everton was immediate and severe. The points deduction dragged them into a relegation battle, undoing much of their on-field progress. Fans felt betrayed, questioning how the club's leadership allowed financial mismanagement to spiral to such a damaging extent. Protests erupted, with supporters demanding greater accountability from owner Farhad Moshiri and the board. However, many critics argued that the punishment, even before being reduced, was inconsistent with how other clubs had been treated. While Everton faced swift sanctions, clubs like Manchester City, facing far more extensive financial misconduct allegations, continued without consequence. This perceived double standard fueled fan frustration, sparking debates about whether the Premier League selectively enforces its financial rules based on a club's stature and influence. The Everton case also raised broader concerns about financial sustainability in English football. Smaller clubs, operating without the safety net of billionaire owners, are more vulnerable to the league's strict financial regulations, while wealthier clubs seemingly operate above the law. The Premier League's handling of Everton's situation highlighted the growing imbalance between the league's elite and its struggling clubs, and how financial oversight may be enforced unevenly. For Everton, the ordeal was a painful chapter in their storied history. It served as a stark reminder that financial missteps, intentional or not, could have catastrophic consequences both on and off the pitch. Whether the club can recover from this setback remains to be seen, but it has undoubtedly shaken the trust between Everton's fans and its management. On September 30th, 2023, the Premier League's use of video assistant referee (VAR) technology reached a new low during a match between Tottenham Hotspur and Liverpool. In a critical moment, Liverpool forward Luis Diaz scored a seemingly legitimate goal that was inexplicably disallowed for offside. The shocking reason? VAR officials simply forgot to check the offside decision. Let that sink in. With millions spent on sophisticated technology and a dedicated team of officials, they forgot to review the play. The blunder sparked immediate outrage. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp and the players were left fuming, while pundits and fans across the footballing world condemned the failure. Social media exploded with criticism, and VAR out trended globally as fans called for major reforms. The Professional Game Match Officials Limited, responsible for refereeing standards, issued a public apology, acknowledging a significant human error. However, for Liverpool and their fans, the apology did little to ease the frustration, especially since the error potentially impacted the outcome of the game and by extension, the title race. This incident reignited debates about the effectiveness of VAR in the Premier League. Introduced to eliminate clear and obvious errors, VAR has instead created more confusion and controversy. Critics argue that the technology has sucked the joy out of football, with fans now hesitant to celebrate goals until the dreaded VAR check is complete. Supporters of VAR claim it's still a work in progress, but moments like this highlight that the problem isn't the technology, it's the people using it. The Premier League faced calls for immediate reforms, including better training for VAR officials, clearer communication with fans, and perhaps most controversially, scrapping VAR altogether. Yet, the league's response remained lukewarm, with promises to review procedures but no substantial changes. The Spurs versus Liverpool debacle remains a glaring example of how VAR, when mismanaged, can undermine the very fairness it was designed to protect, turning the world's most watched league into a global punchline. In November 2024, Premier League referee David Coote found himself at the center of a major controversy when a leaked video surfaced showing him mocking Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp. In the video, Coote was seen imitating Klopp's passionate touchline behavior and making derogatory remarks about Liverpool's playing style. The footage quickly went viral, sparking widespread outrage among fans, pundits, and players alike. The incident called into question the professionalism and impartiality of Premier League officials. Referees are expected to maintain neutrality and professionalism, yet Coote's behavior suggested a personal bias, an unforgivable flaw in a role that demands fairness and objectivity. The backlash was immediate. Fans flooded social media demanding accountability. The Premier League responded by suspending Coote indefinitely while conducting an internal investigation. However, critics argued that the league's handling of the situation was yet another example of inconsistency in disciplining officials. Liverpool supporters in particular pointed to previous controversial refereeing decisions against their club and suggested that Coote's conduct was indicative of deeper systemic issues within the officiating body. This scandal amplified existing concerns about the transparency and accountability of the professional game match. Officials limited, calls grew louder for an overhaul of the refereeing system, with demands for improved training, psychological assessments for referees, and perhaps even the introduction of public post-match reports to explain contentious decisions. Coote's suspension wasn't just about one official's misconduct. It symbolized the growing distrust fans have in Premier League officiating. In a league where the stakes are higher than ever, the need for professionalism, fairness, and accountability has never been more critical. Until these issues are addressed, incidents like this will continue to erode the integrity of the sport. Today, the Premier League is a global brand worth billions. But is it still football, or is it just content for streaming services? Clubs care more about marketing in Asia than about their local fans. Tickets are outrageously priced, kickoff times are adjusted for international viewers, and the gap between the Big Six and the rest has become a canyon. Yet, they still call it the most competitive league in the world. Sure, if you ignore that the same few teams win everything. Fans are frustrated, hardcore supporters are priced out of stadiums, replaced by tourists taking selfies. VAR decisions are making fans nostalgic for the days when referees just made bad calls without technology, and Arsenal fans? They're convinced the refs have a secret WhatsApp group dedicated to ruining their season. Honestly, who can blame them? The Premier League's response? Half-baked PR stunts. They painted rainbow laces, launched campaigns about integrity, and of course, added more VAR angles, because clearly the problem was the camera quality. Oh, and introducing a winter break. Groundbreaking stuff. But none of it addresses the real problems. Financial corruption? Ignored. Fan pricing? Still insane. Competitive balance? What's that? They promise transparency but deliver chaos. It's like trying to fix a leaky roof with glitter glue. So why does the Premier League suck now? In one word, greed. The game has been hijacked by billionaires. VAR is a joke, and scandals are more common than goals. Is it beyond saving? Maybe not, but unless the league stops prioritizing profits over passion, it risks becoming a parody of itself. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a guy on YouTube ranting about football. So, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. Or VAR might disallow it. Until next time, remember, football is supposed to be the beautiful game, not the most expensive one. Cheers!